My friends, let me tell you something that many sleep through and never understand. The early morning hours from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. are not ordinary hours. These are sacred hours, strategic hours, spiritual hours. While the world is still and the city sleeps, the invisible battle rages on. It is during this time that dark forces creep, casting shadows over homes, minds, and hearts. But you, yes, you, are not called to be a victim. You are called to be a warrior. When the enemy moves in silence, you rise in prayer. When curses are whispered in darkness, you shout declarations of light. These hours are not meant for fear. They are meant for freedom. They are not for trembling. They are for training. Wake up not in panic, but in purpose. Get on your feet, not in confusion, but in command. You may not see the witchcraft, but you feel it. The anxiety, the heaviness, the strange dreams, the restlessness in your spirit. That's not coincidence. That's a call to action. Don't reach for your phone. Reach for the word. Don't scroll. Stand. This is a time to break what's been holding you, to cancel what's been cursing you, to destroy what's been delaying you. Rise up between 3 and 5, not as a spectator, but as a soldier. Speak life, speak protection, speak peace, because authority isn't given when the sun rises. It's taken in the darkest hour. You were not made to bow to the night. You were born to command it. Break the chains, break the silence, break the witchcraft. Now, the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. are spiritually significant. This is not just superstition or folklore, but a truth echoed across many cultures, spiritual teachings, and religious traditions. These hours have long been recognized as a period when the boundary between the physical and spiritual realm seems thinnest. In the stillness of the night, when the world sleeps and distractions are minimal, the spiritual atmosphere becomes heightened. It is often referred to as the witching hour, not because of horror stories or fantasy, but because this is a time when spiritual activities, both divine and demonic, can intensify. In ancient times, prophets, monks, and saints would rise during these hours to pray. Why? Because they understood something that many people today have forgotten. They knew this was a time when divine revelation could come more clearly, when communion with God was deeper, and when the soul was most sensitive to spiritual movement. But just as the heavens are open, so too is the enemy at work. It is during these very hours that negative energies, occult activities, and spiritual manipulation often increase. Those who dabble in witchcraft, sorcery, and dark rituals often choose this window of time for a reason. It's not random, it's intentional. There is a vulnerability to the human mind and spirit in the early hours. The body is tired, the subconscious is active, and the soul is often Many report waking suddenly at 3 a.m. with fear, dread, or a strange heaviness. Some wake from nightmares or spiritual attacks. Others feel an unseen presence in the room or experience sleep paralysis. These are not just psychological phenomena. They can be spiritual signs. The mistake many make is brushing them off as coincidence or sleep disturbance. In truth, it may be the Spirit calling you to awaken, to engage in spiritual warfare, to take authority in the quiet hours. What you do between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. can determine the peace of your day and even the direction of your life. It is in these moments that prayer becomes not just a religious activity, but a lifeline. This is when praise is not just singing, it becomes a weapon. Scripture becomes a sword. Your words carry weight. Your posture in these hours is not one of fear, but one of faith. By rising in this time and claiming your spiritual ground, you dismantle the strategies of darkness and establish a covering over your life, your family, your mind, and your future. The truth is, while others may be using these hours to send curses, you can use them to speak blessings. While some may work in secrecy to bind others, you can rise with boldness to break chains. There is a spiritual authority available to you. but it must be activated. The 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. window is not just a spooky time frame. It is an opportunity. It is an invitation, an open gate where you decide whether you will sleep through it or stand through it. Understanding the significance of these hours isn't about fear. It's about awareness. The more you understand the spiritual dynamics of this time, the more equipped you become to resist negative forces and embrace divine encounters. You don't need to be afraid of this time. You need to rise in it. Speak over your home. Pray over your children. Declare peace over your mind. Break off generational curses. Cancel demonic assignments. Invite the presence of the Most High. The early morning hours are a sacred space for transformation. They are the battleground where victory is often won before the world even wakes. And when you begin to treat them as such, not just as time on the clock, but as spiritual ground, you begin to walk in a new power, a power that no curse can withstand, a power that darkness cannot silence, a power that wakes not just your body, but your destiny. Spiritual vigilance through prayer, praise, and awareness is the key to breaking witchcraft and negative spiritual influences during the hours of 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. These early morning hours are not just another part of the day. They are a spiritual gateway, a divine invitation to take charge over what is happening in your life and in the unseen realm. When we speak of witchcraft, we are not only referring to rituals or dark ceremonies, but to any force that works against the will and blessing of God in your life. Witchcraft, in its broader sense, includes manipulation, confusion, curses, heaviness, spiritual attacks, mental oppression, and anything that seeks to suppress your spiritual progress. These things often intensify during the stillness of early morning, and unless one is spiritually awake and aware, they can silently take root. The first and most effective way to break these forces is through intentional prayer. Prayer is not simply a routine or religious tradition. It is spiritual warfare. It is how you access heavenly authority and push back against darkness. When you pray between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., you are standing in the gap. You are aligning your spirit with heaven and disrupting the operations of hell. This is not passive prayer. This is prayer with purpose. You don't have to shout, but you must speak with boldness. You don't need a script, but you must speak with faith. Call on divine protection. Speak against confusion. Cancel spiritual attacks. Declare the promises of God. Your words in that moment echo in the spiritual realm. Angels move. Darkness flees. Chains break. But prayer alone is not the full weapon. Praise is another vital key. Praise may seem like an unusual response to spiritual battle, but it is one of the most powerful forms of warfare. When you praise in the middle of the night, you confuse the enemy. You are declaring that even in the dark, even when you're tired, even when fear tries to creep in, you still trust God. Praise breaks atmospheres. It brings the presence of God into your space. The enemy cannot dwell where God is being glorified. When your room becomes a sanctuary of praise between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., demonic forces lose their grip. Depression begins to lift. Mental clarity returns. Healing begins to flow. All because praise shifted the environment. Awareness is the third key to spiritual victory. You must not live blindly in a world that is spiritually active. Many are attacked not because they are weak, but because they are unaware. The first step to victory is understanding the battle you are in. When you become spiritually aware, you begin to notice patterns. You discern when fear is not natural but spiritual. You recognize when dreams are more than imagination. You sense when a heaviness is not just emotional but demonic. Awareness allows you to be proactive instead of reactive. You don't wait for the attack, you prepare ahead of it. You don't just suffer through the night, you rise and speak light into it. The truth is, spiritual vigilance is not just for pastors or prophets, it is for everyone. You may be a mother, a student, a worker, a retiree, but when you are spiritually awake between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., you become a spiritual gatekeeper for your life and your household. You stop things before they start. You break curses before they manifest. You secure blessings before the sun rises. These hours are sacred. They are not meant for scrolling through your phone or drifting in anxiety. They are meant for encounter, meant for empowerment, meant for victory. Don't be afraid of witchcraft. Be equipped to overcome it. Prayer makes you strong. Praise makes you free. Awareness makes you dangerous to darkness. And when all three are active between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., you don't just... The hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. are spiritually significant. This truth has been known for centuries by those who walk closely with spiritual disciplines. These are not ordinary hours. They are sacred and deeply connected to the spiritual realm. During this time, most of the world is asleep. Distractions are at their lowest. And the atmosphere is incredibly still. In that stillness, the spiritual world becomes more active and apparent. It's not just folklore or tradition that points to these hours as significant. In many religious texts and spiritual teachings, it is said that divine encounters, visions, angelic visitations, and even demonic attacks often occur in these early morning hours. The veil between the physical and spiritual seems thinner. And this makes the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. a crucial window for both danger and divine opportunity. It is important to understand that spiritual battles are often fought in silence. Not everything that affects your life is visible. Some things you can't explain: sudden anxiety, recurring nightmares, an unshakable sense of heaviness, spiritual fatigue, or emotional confusion. These may not be physical or psychological alone. They could be signs of spiritual warfare occurring during this sensitive window. Many people report waking up around 3 a.m. suddenly and feeling a presence in the room, or having an unexplainable fear. Others find themselves restless or anxious without reason. These moments are not always coincidental. Often they are invitations, an awakening call to rise and take spiritual authority. It is also during these hours that many involved in occult practices perform their rituals. Why do they choose this time? Because they understand that it's a spiritually charged period. Darkness operates best in silence and secrecy, and when most of the world is asleep, those who serve darkness are wide awake, declaring curses, manipulating energies, and sending spiritual attacks. But here's the truth: they don't own that time. The forces of evil may operate in that hour, but the power of light is always greater. Those hours are not the devil's. They belong to the Creator. And when you rise in that hour to pray, worship, and speak truth, you reclaim that time and push back against every force that tries to take root. The early morning hours are also the time when spiritual downloads and divine revelations often come. Prophets, sages, and spiritual leaders throughout history have testified to hearing the clearest voice from God during these hours. When your mind is uncluttered and the world is quiet, your spirit becomes more receptive. That's when divine ideas come. That's when healing begins. That's when peace floods in. It is a time of great power, but only for those who are awake to seize it. If you sleep through it every time, unaware of its value, you miss the opportunity to shift the direction of your life. There is also a practical dimension. Science confirms that the mind is more impressionable and the subconscious more open during these hours. That's why repeated thoughts, dreams, and fears have stronger emotional impact in the early morning. So if you wake during this time and fill your mind with fear, worry, or distraction, it can shape your day negatively. But if you use that window to pray, meditate, and align with spiritual truth, it becomes a foundation for strength and clarity. Waking up at 3 a.m. is not something to fear. It is a calling to become spiritually alert. It is a reminder that your life is not just physical, but deeply spiritual. And when you treat that time with reverence, when you choose to rise instead of roll over, you will begin to see a change in your life. You will feel more empowered, more protected, more in tune with divine direction. That time is a gift. It is a secret weapon for those who are spiritually aware. Use it well, and you'll break every chain that was ever formed in the dark.